This is Adventure for Life. I'm Joel. I'm going to interrupt the videos that we've been doing on my cross-country trip because earlier this week I went to Regal Ineos to get some warranty work done on the vehicle, which I'm going to talk about later in the video. But while I was there, I got to spend some time with one of their sales guys and got some insight that I think you guys will be interested in. So I'm going to share that with you now. All right, so I've got some notes that I'm going to follow along. It was a very interesting and informational trip that I took to Regal earlier this week. And so I wanted to give you some updates on that. So some of this you guys may have heard of already, but you're obviously well aware that the seats in the Grenadier are made by a company called Recaro. Recaro is a high-end seat manufacturer, and that's why Ineos went to them. And they do not only seats for the Grenadier, but also for Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Porsches and a lot of high-end vehicles. And I actually think my tractor has a Recaro seat in it, but I need to look at that. Anyway, Recaro went bankrupt, and that is just insane. And even though they're a high-end manufacturer, been in business a long time, you know, you would think, and I don't know, but you'd think there had to have been some kind of mismanagement or something because highly sought-after seats. Anyway, because Recaro went bankrupt, their bankruptcy is different in Europe. You know, in the United States, somebody goes bankrupt and somebody else signs up to buy them and they don't have to pay their debts for a while and they just continue to operate. But for whatever reason, that's not what's happening to Recaro, and they've ceased operations, at least on the OEM side of their business. So the word is that Ineos has shut down their manufacturing line, and at least per the people that I talked to, their estimated turn back on date of the manufacturing line is April of 2025. And that is just insane. I mean, that's like, this is October, that's like 6 months from now. So that would really negatively affect Ineos, obviously. Along with that, they originally planned on delivering just 40 quartermasters into the United States this year, probably one for each dealer. They won't be able to do that because they don't have the seats, or I don't think they've produced any of them. So it doesn't appear that the quartermasters are going to come to the United States in 2024 either. And I don't know if you've heard this, but the quartermaster is anticipated to be priced at $125,000, you know, fully spec'd out. So that's an extremely expensive truck. Regal, again, this is just some interesting information. Regal in September sold 50 Grenadiers. Now, every time I went there, when I went to Warner Ineos, I kept thinking, boy, they got a lot of cars, and I hope that doesn't mean they're not selling them. Well, apparently they are selling well. I was told that Sewell in Dallas sold 80 units in September. And because of that, Regal had plenty of cars on their lot. They said they had 40 of them that were stuck in the longshoremen strike. But now that that's been resolved, hopefully they're going to have those 40 units. So I think they've got roughly 100 units to sell total, and they anticipate being out of stock by the end of November, about Thanksgiving time. Let's talk about towing for a second. Regal had on their lot, and I'd seen it before, but they bought a trailer and, you know, got pictures of the Grenadier on the side and all that, and they bought one so that they could deliver Grenadiers to customers. They said that the trailer itself weighed about 3,000 pounds. The Grenadier weighs about 6,000 pounds. Add that together, you're at 9,000. They are delivering Grenadiers to customers with a Grenadier pulling the trailer. So again, the Grenadier is rated at 7,700 pounds. They are pulling a trailer of towing. They're pulling a trailer that's got about 10,000 pounds on it, or 9,000 pounds. So 9,000 plus. So that's that obviously speaks well of the towing capacity. They said they've pulled that trailer 80 miles an hour down the interstate, had no problems whatsoever. So obviously that's a good news thing. The only issue is, you know, the side mirrors. They did say, you know, the trailer had to be wide to fit the Grenadier in it. And these side mirrors, you know, obviously there's no extension like I have on my truck. These side mirrors just don't stick out far enough. So, you know, gonna have to find, you know, get some kind of aftermarket thing that attaches this to give you some more view out the out of the side view mirror. How about nanny systems? So let's talk about that for a second. You know, my favorite, my most hated topic. So, you know, I'm just going to show the screen. I'm not going to go into the details of the screen, but got some good news on the nanny system front. So again, they've been saying, you know, since they delivered the vehicles, started delivering back in November, December of last year, they've been saying, oh yeah, we're going to fix that nanny system thing, and it hadn't been fixed yet. And people are starting to get irritated, and I've been irritated for a while about it. They're now saying it's going to be available at year end. And the reason it's taken so long is that the United States NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, has gotten involved because these are safety systems and they're requiring a bunch of testing and whatnot, which is good, obviously, but that's why it's taking so long. So supposedly the modification they've made is that the ADAS system, the Advanced Driver Assistance System, will be able to turn them off totally. And interestingly, the sales guys said you can, on the cars they're driving, on the Grenadiers they're driving right now, they themselves personally are driving, it's already been turned off. And so they're part of the guinea pigs or the testing for having these ADAS systems turned off. And supposedly it's going to turn them off totally, and or give you the option of turning them off totally. And if you do turn them off, again, you know, I turn the lane departure warning off every time I get in the car. And one of the things that irritates me is right here on the screen, a yellow light shows up that tells me, hey, you've turned off the lane departure warning. And the driver drowsiness thing, a little triangle pops up right there if you turn off the silly coffee cup that shows up when it starts telling you to take a break. Anyway, supposedly those lights in that little warning screen are going to be turned off also, so we're not going to have to deal with that. So the things that the ADAS system currently has are the speed limit warning, the lane departure warning, the drowsy driver warning, and I think there's one other. And supposedly, again, those will all be, you'll be able to turn off one thing, turn off the ADAS system. And you can do that now, but you get the warning lights on the dashboard, so that's why I haven't done it. And you still have to do it every time, so it, you know, it doesn't save you anything. So supposedly we're going to be able to turn those off, or turn it off once, and all of those systems will be disabled. I am going to, I told you and showed you, this is my third windshield, the one that was delivered with the vehicle. The first one that I got replaced in Salt Lake City at Warner, and then the second one I got replaced later at Regal. And, you know, I told you that Warner said that they were working on some kind of cover for this windshield. Well, I am taking the car in on Monday. This is Friday. I'm taking it in on Monday, and I'm going to have a product called ExoShield installed onto this windshield. And again, it is a product that has been used by Jeep drivers for a long time, because Jeeps have the same kind of issue we do, the upright windshield and the flat windshield, and it cracks easily. And of course they're doing off-road stuff and there's more rocks and all that kind of thing. So I'm gonna have that installed on Monday. Again, I think I was told it was $395, and we'll see how that works as far as protecting the windshield. By the way, a couple of weeks ago, I was driving and took a significantly sized rock. I shouldn't say significantly sized, but took a rock, pretty good sized one right here, and it did not crack the windshield. So it's interesting that, again, the guys at Warner told me this, that from what they've seen, it's the smaller rocks that are chipping the windshield, which to me doesn't make any sense. Another modification that I've become aware of is there's a company called Agile Off-Road in California that has developed and is selling a tuner that purports to increase the engine horsepower by about 50 horsepower. I've seen it on their website. I've not tried to buy it, but I mentioned that to the Ineos sales guy, and he said, don't buy it. There's a company out there called JB4. J as in John, B as in boy, the number 4, that specializes, quote unquote, specializes in BMW B58 engine tuning. And that the owner of JB4, that company, has bought personally a Grenadier for himself and is working on a tune specifically for the Grenadier, and it's going to have 3 different power settings on it. So, and I think the top one is maybe 110 horse, and so you'd expect maybe a 50, maybe a 75 or 80, and then maybe 110, or one of them is going to be a towing, you know, setting, who knows. Anyway, looking forward to that coming available. I did get on their website. They do lots of tuning. They also did mention the BMW engines. Interestingly, by the way, the Toyota Supra has and obviously that's a sports car, has the same engine, same transmission as the Grenadier, and stock, the B58s for the most part are advertised with 330 horsepower. They Ineos detuned this one to 280 horsepower. But some of the Toyota Supras, again, they're sports cars, people have tuned them to over 1,000 horsepower. So, and I asked the sales guy, you know, obviously I'm not going to do 1,000 horsepower on this car. I don't want that. But if I could get 50, be able to select between 50 and 85 and 110, I would love it. I asked him about the other components, and he said, you know, transmission, rock solid. Again, it's in the G-Wagon, it's in other cars that have higher horsepower than the Grenadier does, and also in the Supra. And I asked him about the other components, drive shaft, differentials, those kinds of things. At least from his perspective, he said there should absolutely, his opinion, there should absolutely be no problem. Now, am I going to do this before the warranty runs out? Well, I'm at 28,000 miles already. So the warranty will be out at 60,000. So, you know, I might wait, or at least may let it get a little bit closer. I mean, it's not going to be available probably for another 6 months, maybe a year, but I certainly am going to put a tune on this thing as soon as I can. Okay, so I told you the reason I went to Regal Ineos in the first place was because I had a couple of warranty issues, and I wanted to run through what they did while it was there, and I'll point out the things that were warranty. And by the way, my invoice at the end of all this was $0. So I've been really impressed with the way that they've handled warranty issues so far. So first thing on the list is they performed a certified multi-point vehicle inspection. And you really can tell that they are taking that seriously and doing a good, thorough job of inspecting. And I'll mention something specific later that came up as a result of that. Oh, the check engine light. So I mentioned, or maybe this video hasn't posted yet, but my check engine light came on during the trip that the cross-country trip that I took, and it turned out it was related to the fuel system, and not the fuel system, but filling up the vehicle with gas. Apparently, the sensors were too sensitive when you fill up with gas, and you could easily set off the check engine light. And the problem with that is is that obviously you got to see the check engine light being on and wonder what it is, but the other big problem is it turns off your cruise control. So anyhow, they did an update on the software and that problem has supposedly been corrected, and we'll assume that it is. Second thing is they call it a prop shaft coupler that they said is split open. Now I don't know exactly where that is. Obviously it's underneath the car, but I'm going to read to you what they wrote. No signs of extreme angles on the shaft, and there are no aftermarket lifts or steering components. So they said they supported the transmission and the transfer case, and they removed some cross brace and they replaced this prop shaft coupler. So I think it's just a rubber component that's cracked. My service advisor said that quite a few of them that has happened. You know, I don't know if they installed an updated one or not. He did say, you know, just like these words that I just now read, he had a couple of customers that had to pay for it because they had already put a lift on their car, and Ineos said, hey, we're not gonna warrant that since you put a lift on it. So then on the cross-country trip, right at the end, the rear pinion seal right in front of the rear differential started leaking. So I had the car parked, and I don't know if you can see it very good, but if you see the rear differential there, it started leaking right in front of that, and they call it the pinion seal. And it, you know, I got in the car and backed up and got out, and I happened to notice there were 8 or 10 little drops of differential fluid down there. It was all clean differential fluid, but the drops were there, and so I called them. They said, yeah, there's a leak there. I sent them a picture. So that apparently is a problem, and it turns out when they were doing the inspection, the one on the front is leaking also. So unfortunately, I've got to take it back to them because they didn't have the part. But if you can see under there, there is the front differential, and I haven't gotten under there to look to see how bad the leak was. The leak was very obvious on the rear, but I didn't call under there to see about the front. So both of these pinion seals, front and rear, have leaked. They also, and again, this goes back to the inspection they're doing. So when they were inspecting the car, they said that the door seal was delaminating. And now I never saw it, but I assume that they're talking about this, and they replaced it. So again, that makes you feel pretty good about the job they're doing and the care they're taking with the inspections and trying to make sure everything's all right, and also, you know, just taking care of things and being sure the car's okay and not trying to duck whatever warranty responsibility that they have. Oh, this is interesting. When I was on this trip, a friend of mine noticed that my spare tire was flat. So, I mean, he was just poking on it, and he pushed on it, and, you know, I did the same thing, and sure enough, that tire was flat. And so I took it in, and I said, hey, air this up. I just figured it never got aired up from the factory or whatever. Well, it turns out that it had a leak on the valve stem. And so they had to remove the valve stem, and it doesn't say they replaced it. It said they repaired it, and the valve stem, well, it was up here at the top, but of course they took the tire off and put it back on. But anyway, the valve stem was repaired, and it's no longer leaking. And of course, if you hit it now, it's nice and solid. Interestingly, they did put 49 pounds worth of pressure on there, and I asked them about the air pressure issue, and they said that the correct pressure now is supposed to be 36 pounds. And the top of the range, I think when it starts throwing the error codes, is going to be around 38, 39 pounds. And on the low end, probably down around 31. And that's something that at least, you know, has been reported to Ineos as being way too tight. By the way, another thing that happened that I found out about, back to the nanny systems for a second. What I was told was, because, you know, I've made the comment before, whoever at Ineos program the nanny systems ought to be punched in the mouth, and then they ought to be fired. Well, it turns out it does not appear that Ineos employees programmed it. What I was told was it was done by Texas Instruments. And, you know, that may be why, because they hired it out, that may be why it is so over the top. Maybe Texas Instruments was trying to make sure they did a excellent job, a thorough job. Maybe Texas Instruments was just trying to jack up their invoice and bill a bunch of extra hours. Maybe like I accused Ineos of, maybe Texas Instruments had some pin-headed control freak that wanted to tell us what to do. I don't know. I was told that in Europe and in other countries, they don't have the same nanny systems. They don't have the ADAS system, so maybe it was all came from the United States to begin with. Maybe this was special programming for the United States. Maybe that's why they outsourced it to Texas Instruments, and maybe that's why it's so over the top. And maybe that's why we didn't hear about it before, or at least I didn't, before the vehicle came to the United States. Anyway, I just hope to goodness that they've got it set up so that we can turn this off, and this will be an unfortunate part of the history that's behind us. By the way, one last thing, and then I'll let you guys go. There's two numbers on this $0 invoice at the bottom, and one says previous estimate $1,339, and then it says revised estimate $1,642. And again, I paid $0, so I don't know if that's how they do their internal accounting. I don't know if that's just some made-up number, but based on what I see, this would have been $1,600 worth of work that they all counted as warranty work, which obviously I'm thrilled about. Anyway, I thought you guys would be interested in both the information that I got from Regal, and also what a good job they did on the warranty work. And again, I'm going to have some more work done when that front pinion seal comes in. So hopefully, if they get the nanny system update done this year, December can't come too soon. Not just for Christmas. Well, it will be Christmas. That'll be my Christmas present. Anyway, see y'all next week.